What have you enjoyed most about Bible school so far?
I think I've been enjoying the worship and the teaching a lot.
Spending time with friends and the breaks, quiet time, small group, the sessions. I don't really know if I could pick one thing. There's something very special about each aspect of it, so yeah, I enjoyed all of it.
I believe my favorite part would be the small groups.
I really enjoy hanging out with friends and just goofing around, and I think small groups that really helped.
The food. Most enjoyable part, the singing. Most helpful part, the teaching.
Being with all the people.
I really enjoyed the prayer groups and just getting to be with different people.
God's goodness. He has showed me some things that is just really powerful.
Getting to know my friends more and listening to the sessions.
Probably getting to hang out with my friends in the quiet time and the worship. I don't know, I really enjoy small group. I really enjoy, seeing everybody. It's really fun.
All the people.
Getting to know people. I also really enjoy the worship time.
Say the thing I enjoyed most was conversations with people, getting to know people. Sometimes the most edifying things were chatting over lunch.
I've really enjoyed looking at character sketches of people from the past and being encouraged by the lives they lived and what they went through. I also just really enjoyed Spikeball. That was Spikeball against other students.
I think for me, the thing I most enjoyed this time was the small groups. Our time in small group was really, really good. The conversations we had, the depth that people were going to. I just felt like in the end, I had a lot more connection with people and the friendships got a lot deeper. So it was a really sweet time.
I believe my favorite part would be the small groups.
The prayer groups, or the quiet time, or the worship times.
The flexibility of being able to whether listen or help Barb in the kitchen.
I think the quiet time.
I enjoyed the sermons for sure. I don't really have a preference, like Mr. Kaufman's or Kyle's or Micah's or Brendan's sermons at all. They were all really inspirational. So
definitely friends. Being able to spend time with friends that are out of my family, and probably small groups. They were really encouraging.
The fact that I can see other Christians, mostly in the everyday basis. I don't get to see people this much in the gospel and Jesus.
I really enjoyed Paul Kaufman's teaching. It impacted me personally. Learning how he's an unchanging God, and he knows our heart, so that we can trust his leadership because he knows exactly what we want and need.
I really enjoyed the teaching. The teaching was a lot of good. Especially I enjoyed Mr. Kaufman's speech on the attributes of God. That was very interesting and helpful.
I think I enjoyed Paul's study on the attributes of God the most.
What is something you don't want to forget?
That Jesus wins.
The friends I've made and the things that I've learned in the sessions.
That prayers are never wasted.
that God is with me all the time. I definitely do not want to forget that.
The endurance characters, they're pretty cool.
Honestly, I don't want to forget who God is. If anything, I want to understand that even better.
Definitely the teaching, I'd have to say.
Prayers are never wasted.
To persevere because God has given us the strength to.
What I'm supposed to do for the skit on Saturday.
One of Kyle's messages, he said that, they talked about how God is. Like when people get dementia, what's in their heart starts coming out of their mouth because they can't really control anymore. To me, that was really cool that God reveals, God is always with you. He's always there, and he's always in the back of your mind, and he's controlling your thoughts. And if we control our own thoughts, it doesn't end well. And it's just amazing to see that God is just there. He controls our thoughts.
The people I've talked to and the friends I've made.
I would say I don't want to forget how God is sovereign over all other gods, all other things that exalt themselves against the knowledge of Him. He's sovereign over them.
I don't want to forget just how vital confidence in God's promises are. And I don't want to let the busyness of life, the distractions of life, take my eyes off of who God is, what He's promised, who He is to me.
Something I don't want to forget is the truth of God. When Paul talked about God's truth and how it affects our worship, especially not just knowing who He is, but who we are, and not hiding behind anything, but just letting God see this is who I am and confessing that to Him and living in that reality brings so much freedom. And so I don't want to forget that, because that had a huge impact on me. And I just kind of want to see that continue to move forward in my life and worshiping God for who He is and for who I am.
I was also really struck by Brendan's one session where he mentioned the quote by Oswald Chambers about being obsessed with the method rather than the master. And that really convicted me, because I can definitely see that in my life, even currently, where the temptation to be obsessed with the method or to be obsessed with endurance over being obsessed with Christ. I don't want that.
I don't want to forget anything. It was a really good experience.
Who would you name as Bible School's MVP?
Barb.
Why?
Because she makes the most yummiest food, and I like Barb.
Oh, so easy. Barb. She cooked all the food, and honestly, if she hadn't done that, I don't know how many students would even come back next year.
Yeah, I'd say either Barb or Andy, because Andy coming in last minute to lead the worship and then just his gifting with that, such a blessing, and I don't know how he would have done it otherwise. But yeah, Barb too, so he would be a good competitor for MVP. Yeah.
Barb starts first, because she does a lot of faithful work in the kitchen and keeps us all fed.
Okay, Barb.
Okay, cool. And why?
Because we all had wonderful food, and she's just happily working over there.
I would have to say Will. If I heard the history correctly, Bible school was kind of dropped on his leadership. So honestly, I don't think it would have happened if it wasn't for Will stepping up.
I think Will, because I know he had a big hand in setting it up, taking care of all the technical situations.
Probably Kyle.
Barb, for sure. Wow, I mean, who's been cooking all the food? That's definitely a work that I wouldn't want to do during Bible school.
Probably Barb.
Why is that?
Because she's amazing at what she does, making food for us, and just caring for us. I have to say Barbara, for her just being there, being such a servant and helping with the food and the cleanup and so on. Yeah, she stuck out to me. I think she kept everything running smoothly.
Barb, definitely, because she does tons of cooking and serving and is very cheerful and happy about it.
I'll probably say Barb. She really worked hard.
Definitely Barb.
Barb, because she cooks.
Definitely Barb.
Barb.
I would say Barb. She worked her tail off in the kitchen, making sure everybody had food at break times, and just, yeah, did an amazing job. So.
Barb, hands down. She was just like, I don't know, she felt like the heart and soul of Bible school. Like, you could come to her if you needed, you needed to talk, or you needed a snack, or you needed someone to laugh with, and I don't know, she was always there, and she really set the tone for honestly the whole week, I think.
Barb. Her dedication to us young people and her love for us, it's amazing.
What part of the day is your favorite in Bible school?
I think I've really enjoyed the conversations based around the kingdom of heaven.
quiet hour because it's actually not quiet and you can have awesome conversations.
Probably the worship or the prayer group times.
I really like the small groups, getting to talk and pray together.
I'd say the small group, yeah, for sure. I got to connect with a lot of the young men, especially in my small group, and with the leaders as well. So,
quiet time. Get to catch a quick snack nap.
Quiet time.
I have to say Paul Kaufman's session was my favorite part of the day.
What is God teaching you about endurance?
That endurance is worth it if you're not gonna see him at the end of everything.
Endurance has a whole lot more to do with our dependency on Jesus than it does about our effort. Although it does require our effort, it's more about knowing Him and allowing His grace to be made strong in the weakness.
That I'm pretty lame and pretty weak.
A lot of things. Just to hang on to Him and not forget that He loves me.
That it's okay to be afraid while enduring, but fear doesn't mean you have to give up.
He is teaching me that He is good and that He loves me and all I have to endure.
I have none. No. Just one. That I don't have enough.
To keep my eyes on Him, to keep looking at Jesus, and to really experience His love truly. I think that's the main thing for me. And to also stay humble, to be ready to admit the truth about myself, the truths about myself that I don't really like to admit.
Primarily, not giving up when the monotony of life becomes almost unbearable. Just to the daily grind.
well, I don't think that can be explained completely, of course. You'd have to sit through all the Bible school sessions probably to learn about it, but really what it comes down to is that God is in control at all times. And you have to, at all times, believe that. And as long as you have that, it will give you hope in any dark situation.
I think that no matter how I feel or what I see, that as long as I'm faithful and I endure to the end, that God will come through for me. I think so often it's been easy for me to get caught up in my feelings and what I'm seeing or feeling in the moment, but understanding that that's not what it's all about. That enduring and being faithful is really where God wants us, and He seems like He takes us through times where we do feel His love or feel His presence maybe more so, but He also takes us through dry seasons that I think are more like maybe testing times, but even in that, like even if I don't feel that He's near in those moments, He is, because He says, and I think the one scripture that has really helped me a lot is that when Jesus said before He left this earth, like, I'm with you always, even to the end of the world or end of this age, and that's been a real comfort for me. So
to be steadfast, to trust in God, that His love helps us endure. Just by trusting in Him that we can endure and know, like what Jesus endured, knowing that the joy was set before Him.
That no matter how far I run, no matter what I do, God will always be there to help me and pick me back up if I fall.
Maybe that through trials and things in our life like storms, how if we learn to trust Him and to obey Him, enduring through it, I don't think we'll seem as hard, won't be as hard.
If you could change something about Bible school, what would it be?
I would love to do activation time. It'd be really fun to have a hot air balloon too.
Hot air balloon?
And take rides, yeah.
Oh, that would be fun too.
And the crowd goes wild.
I'm not exactly sure what it would look like, but it'd be nice to structure it in some way where students would come away retaining more than what they do currently.
Yeah, I'd say probably having maybe one less session so that there's a little bit less of like an overload of information going on and a little bit more time to actually hang out together, have a little bit more free time. Yeah, and just be able to actually take in more and take away more, kind of like what he was saying.
I would add a little more time just to interact with each other, a little more free time, a little more, yeah, just time to connect with other people.
I really do not know.
And one thing that I would like to change is the amount of students. I'd like to see at least twice as many students here, maybe more.
I don't know. Maybe a longer break.
I would make it longer without all the stress.
I really, really liked everything the way that it was, but I think it would be really nice if we could, not on all the days because I understand you have to have like the sessions and everything, but I think it would be really nice to have a little bit more socializing sometimes, because especially towards the end of the week, I think we all really felt like not just like silly talking with our friends, but actually like we were discussing what we were learning, and it was helpful to do that in a group setting and with your friends, because I feel like this is something you go through not just alone, but in a Bible school setting you go through it with a lot of people, and you want to talk about what you're learning, and I feel like I wish we had a little bit more time to talk about that. And
I honestly can't think of anything.
This interview. No. Probably have like more breaks and more socializing time. Like maybe not on a set daily basis, but like maybe 3 times a day where one of the messages could be like just more break.
Maybe a time for of recess, like specifically a break for just hanging out and playing games and so on.
To be honest, probably the worship session. If anything, it could be a little shorter. The songs were good, but unfortunately, a lengthy worship session, sometimes you'll lose the people's attention, and it's not as much worship anymore, it's just the routine. So I think the worship session could be a little shorter.
I do wish that I could go to sleep maybe a little earlier. I do need my sleep.
Well, I would probably have more break time, and I really like what Josiah said about like having a practical application time where we could do some kind of outreach or something and put what we've been learning into practice.
Maybe more free time, but I think it's pretty good the way it is. If we had a bring your pet to church day, what would you bring?
I'd probably bring our family dog, Sophie. She has, wait, is there a limit?
No.
Okay, I'd probably bring Sophie, but she has puppies right now. Then I'd probably bring Johnny, my 9-year-old kitty, who's, yes, quite the quiet baby. My sourdough starter. Because I have to feed it daily, sometimes multiple times a day, or else it doesn't stay alive. So it's my pet. I have to care for it and keep it alive.
It would be my dog. He's adorable. His name is Samson.
Probably a canary.
What kind of pet? Yeah. What kind of pet would I bring? Ooh. What kind of pet would I bring? Oh, I don't know. My pet grizzly bear. No, we only have one pet, and that's our Siberian Husky. But I would probably not bring any pets, and I would enjoy the other people's pets.
My dog Hastings.
My brother's dog Groot. No, yeah, that would definitely be a no-brainer.
My bunnies, definitely.
Pig. Guys, my dog, obviously. Okay. What kind of a question is that?
Pet deer. Probably one of my bantams.
Well, I guess my dog. Bring my dog.
Probably nothing, because a pet is going to be a distraction. But also just because I don't think you need a pet at Bible school.
My dog, since that's the only pet we have. My dog and my fish.
I would actually probably bring one of my neighbor's dogs to church, because they all come over all the time and we get along super good.
I would bring our fat cat Shadow, because we've told people stories about her and she's a conversation starter.
How will this week help you endure your next trial?
How everybody has been so assuring, how everybody has been saying that God is so good, and through trials, He will never let us go.
It's reminded me a lot more of God's goodness and faithfulness and love and steadfastness. And so I think I can endure better the next trial just because of being reminded of truth. And as Alistair Begg would say, like, truth, that's what motivates us, that's what serves as an anchor for our souls.
Yeah. I think the way God wants me to move forward and endure in my next trial is to rejoice in hope and to worship Him in trial. I think that's something that I struggle with, is laying aside the thing I'm going through and just leave it at His throne and worship Him. And to recognize that that's where my source of peace comes from, and my joy in the midst of what I face and what He's prepared for me to go through. So I think moving forward from this week, I have felt very challenged, especially from Paul's message, his last message, to really focus on worshiping God and focusing on Him more than I focus on myself.
Just all the stuff that I learned, all the notes that I took, I can go back and remind myself.
I think maybe just looking back and seeing that, like, the men that Brandon and Micah talked about, how they endured, like, just seeing their life stories and how they kept going, will help me. I mean, I was just thinking of, like, Oswald Chamberlain. I mean, that guy was like, because you look at his writings, you're like, wow, this guy was like deep and really, like, God really used him, but he wasn't perfect. And it's just realizing that I'm not perfect, but God uses imperfect vessels and broken people. So
How would this week help me endure my next trial? I believe the teachings on endurance, the studying on endurance overall reminded me more to trust God, and I think I would probably trust God more.
By showing me that it's okay to go to other people who you're close with your struggles and letting them help you through it.
I don't know, but I have tools that can help me shape the way I think, and taking every thought captive and renewing my mind.
Resting in the attributes of God.
Probably in more ways than one. I'll probably bring God into like a lot smaller problems. Like normally we just brush off the little stuff. We're like, he doesn't care. But definitely one thing that I've seen through the week is that God, like I knew, it consciously in the back of your mind, but kind of refreshed it. Like God really cares about every aspect of our lives, even little ridiculous stuff.
Again, I have to say probably focusing on the overall picture, focusing on God and on Jesus, and realizing that, taking everything into an eternal perspective, realizing that everything I do, everything I say and think has an eternal value to it, and I want to do everything ultimately for His kingdom.
I guess just some of the main principles that were pointed out through the different sessions. The main one is learning to know who God is, because based on what we know about God, we will then know who we are and how to face life.
God has really used this week to strengthen me in a bunch of ways I don't even remember. I love the messages that came out of Kyle and Mr. Kaufman and Brendan and Micah that have really strengthened me in all different ways.
If you could meet someone from one of the character sketches, who would it be and what would you ask him?
I think I'd like to meet John Patton and Oswald Chambers. I'd ask John Patton what made him think of the specific island that he went to. Did God put it on his mind? Or was it just somewhere that he wanted to go?
I would want to meet Augustine, and I would ask, what are the unique challenges that face you as a Christian in your society, in your culture?
Okay, I would want to meet Sarah Edwards. I know she was only touched on briefly, but it was in the last one and it was touched on a little bit, but I am obsessed with her life, and Jonathan Edwards, but I would love to meet her, and I would want to ask, what did it look like for you to take pleasure in God in your life? Because she lived a more ordinary life, but she also went through a lot of hard things. So I would want to know from her perspective what it looked like to take pleasure in God.
It would have to be John Patton, and I would ask him how he decided to commit his life so wholly to one thing. It can be difficult to decide, especially when you're young, because there's so many options of things you can do with your life. How do you decide this is what I'm going to spend my life on? How did he decide to spend his life reaching unreached people groups?
I'd probably ask John Patton how it was for him after his wife and child died.
I would choose Charles Simeon, and I would ask him specifically, beyond what people saw on the exterior of the endurance in your trials, what did you feel like in those times? What were the battles? What were the fears? What were the doubts you went through that people didn't see?
Oswald Chambers. What helped him through giving up his dream of being an artist?
Probably John Patton. I would ask him how it was to endure all he endured.
Definitely Oswald Chambers and his wife. I don't know, I just thought it was so interesting that he was an artist and that he was like a poet. It's a different kind of, I don't know, usually missionaries, I guess, I don't view them as that. Not that they aren't, but it's just interesting that they are artists, and to him art and beauty were it was just a huge part of his life. So I thought that was very interesting. I would love to talk to him.
Oswald Chambers. I would have a lot of questions. What would be one of the questions? Yeah, if I had one question to ask, that's a tough question. Probably ask him to share his story with me or to pray for me, honestly. Probably Oswald Chambers.
Probably Adoniram Judson. He kind of stood out to me. I read other stories on him. I'd probably ask him how it felt to have so many of his family members pass away throughout his life of ministry, and him having to live through all of that, because I know that he had experienced a number of his family's deaths. So,
from what I know of St. Augustine, I think he would be the one I would like to meet.
Oswald Chambers, and I would ask him, how you find that much faith in God.
John Patton, I did read about him in school the one time. It's church history, but and yeah, his simple faith, it was just so crazy how he could just live in that area, like no hope or anything. It was what it seemed like, and yet he should still live there, and he believed that was God's plan and call for him, and somehow he stayed there. I don't know how. And that really encourages me to just step out there in the open and try my best the way I know how.
Probably the John Patton. I would have asked him what was running through his mind when he was going to go see those cannibals.
Probably Oswald Chambers. And I would ask him why he thought he went through those 4 years of darkness.
Mr. Chambers, Oswald Chambers. What is something funny that happened this week, whether to you or to someone else?
Well, me and a couple of the girls were observing how many times people say and you know.
For me, the funniest moment of Bible school was looking across the room and seeing Stefan with his glorious wig on his head and realizing that boy's going to be Samson. I think he made a great Samson.
Well, I had the opportunity of calling somebody a Fruit Loop the one day as they were up getting fruit at the table. And I walked up next to him and I said, I always knew you were a Fruit Loop.
Something funny that has happened to me or someone else this week? That's a very good question. I would say something funny that happened to me this week was when I was asked one of the character sketches, I said Simeon Trust instead of Charles Simeon.
Probably when I picked up the spike ball to give it back and I reached back to throw it to Caleb and the ball went behind me instead of in front of me.
Probably one of the skits.
My head seemed to be like a target for spike balls.
Yeah, legit.
All the time. Probably watching these interviews.
Okay, I was sitting when we were eating, and so Johan and Mick were both, they were across the table from me. And so I was just sitting here. I told Johan I'm gonna watch him eat because we had something going on with all of his other brothers and stuff. And so him and Mick whispered to each other. And so they said something, and they just both got up, and I was like, oh, they're just gonna leave. They didn't. So they came and sat right next to me, and they went really close so I couldn't leave. And so then I was like, I can get out, and they're like, no. So I pushed the table away, and there was plenty of room. So then they just pulled the table back. So I pushed my chair back, and then Mick pushed his back. That's why he ran into you, Rita. I know you're supposed to be part of this, but anyways, that's why. So he pushed his chair back, and then I don't think Johan did, but I did too. So a little bit later, they kind of relaxed, and so I got up, and I was able to leave eventually. So, and then I sat across from Johan, and then I was like, I'm gonna watch you eat. So he came. And I folded the chairs up and stood him up so he could just sit on the chairs. And so I was just sitting, not eating, so I wasn't very close to the table. And so Johan came, and because there was nowhere to sit, he just popped right on my lap, just boom, right there, and eating. Well, a little bit later I got up, and so then I found another chair, I sat next to it, and so he came and sat on my lap again, and then he put his elbow way in my head over here. And so, dear guys, you are so annoying. Okay. He was sitting here, so he was right here. So I was like, oh, perfect. I pulled my knife out and ran it up and down his lats, and then I went down to his obliques and went up and down there too. If you don't know, that's the muscle right here next to your pecs, and the lat is the muscle right back here. And so that's a very tickly spot on him, I guess. And so he jerked in like this. He must have left right around then. I gotta think of something cool to say after that though. Oh yes, then he told me he worries about me. Yeah, then he just left. Yeah, that's all.
Probably messing up in spike ball or something. Can't think of a specific moment, but probably one of those moments.
My aunt is gonna hate me. She brewed some coffee over top, some evening coffee over some morning coffee brew, so it spilled over and created quite a mess. Don't video that.
Too late. I got to recline on my left side. I didn't know that I was reclining. And I also got spiked in the face with a volleyball.
Yeah, I don't know. Lots of funny moments, I think. There's not one you can really pick out.
I mean, I did spill a whole cup of vitamin C drink on me. Oh, we were playing spike ball earlier today, and when I served the ball, it landed in my sister Caitlin's bowl of soup.
Well, the first thing that came to mind is that, it's not that funny, but I was not watching where I was going. I stepped right in a mud puddle and my whole shoe went into the mud puddle that was this deep, and I did not watch where I was going at all, so I don't know, that's the funniest thing I can think of.
I was watching the entire
Honestly, about the funniest part of this week has been watching you guys practice on your interviews. I'm sorry, but that's definitely the most interesting I think I can remember.
Probably trying to open the door to the church, and since my arms are so long, I actually face planted the door instead. It's still opened, so we're good.